Whitney, it is such a pleasure to have you here with me today.
Thanks, Kayla. Excited to be here.
Same. Today we're going to do a slightly different version of a podcast. You and I are new friends, and I just want to have, a conversation. I mean, I always do have conversations, but
I know whenever we're talking, I'm like, we should be recording this.
I know, exactly. So it'll be fun. You guys can get to know Whitney as I further get to know Whitney. And I think we're going to ask some questions back and forth. So I'm so excited about this. It's all things longevity, wellness, nutrition. We have so many similar, interests.
Yeah, excited.
So for anyone that is listening, I actually just had a Sakara bowl, which is your company. And I think you were one of the first ones really to do this like really organic, high-end meal delivery service. You started it
in 2011. We did our first deliveries in 2011. And in that time, people thought we were crazy.
Really?
Yeah, they thought we were crazy. They're like, you're going to send healthy food through the mail, like salads through the mail. Who does that? And at this point, there wasn't even Uber Eats didn't exist. There was no Postmates. And so, the only food that was being delivered was pizza and Chinese food. And they're like, who's going to want healthy food to be delivered? They want pizza and Chinese food delivered. And we're like, no, we are going to change things. We're going to help people be healthier by making it more convenient.
Such a great, I never really thought about like the history of delivery, right? But it really, pizza obviously the first, right? And then or Chinese.
Yeah, and that was really it. I mean, Blue Apron started in 2012, and they had raised so much money that really helped us actually, because they helped get people used to getting food through the mail. Before that, nobody got food through the mail.
Yeah.
And so they kind of helped people get used to that and used to the concept of it. And then that helped us then be like, okay, well, Blue Apron is just giving you ingredients and it's not that healthy. We make our meals ready to eat and are the highest level quality nutrition.
I love that. And tell us a little bit about your backstory, like what brought you, and you have a partner in the business,
Danielle,
also a woman, which I love. How was this birthed?
Yeah. So we grew up together in Sedona. Have you been to Sedona before?
I haven't,
Arizona?
but you told me great things.
Yeah.
So
you have to go. You and your husband have to go.
Okay.
It's amazing. Lots of hiking and just great nature. Mm-hmm. But really, it's a place where people have come for years from all around the world as a place of healing. Mm-hmm. There's healing of all different modalities. Kind of like how in LA, when you go to a restaurant and your waiter is also an actor or writing a screenplay, like everybody's in the industry here. Mm-hmm. In Sedona, everybody is in the industry of healing. So your waiter is also a yoga teacher or a psychic or a Reiki healer. So my dad was an architect and a developer. But then every Tuesday night, he would go and practice with a Reiki master. Mm. And so just, raised with this kind of interesting upbringing of understanding that there are different modalities to healing, and food being one of those modalities. But fast forward, Danielle was living in New York. She was studying to become a doctor, so studying pre-med, interning at St. Luke's Hospital up in Harlem. I moved out to New York to work on Wall Street. I thought I wanted to, be like Susie Orman, a financial advisor, a woman in charge of her finances. Yeah. And I got there, and it was just a crazy lifestyle, like 80-hour work weeks, eating whatever was convenient in the office. They're giving you food to help, keep you kind of motivated and keep you there. And I was young and broke, so I was eating whatever they were feeding me. And then it was part of my job to go out after work and go to the bar with them and be drinking and entertaining clients. And so, I put on a fast 15 pounds, and the cystic acne that I had had since like puberty really was at an all-time worst. So just like big, red, painful cysts all over my face. I still have acne scars from it, but I thought, okay, I'm in New York City. Somebody here is going to have the solution. Somebody is going to fix me, right?
Yeah.
And I went one by one to see doctor after doctor, and each one of them wanted to write me another prescription for antibiotics, which I did so many antibiotics in my life.
Jeez.
Like, it's now become part of my mission to help people to understand the risks and consequences that come along with antibiotics, because I think they feel pretty innocuous, just like, oh yeah, just pop some antibiotics and you'll be fine. But they have long-term side effects, which we can get into later. But so I was on antibiotics. I was on Accutane, which is another serious drug.
Mm-hmm.
It's made to shrink your oil glands from the inside.
Yeah.
But you need your oil glands, right?
Yeah. I believe everything that we have was for a purpose,
And it's what keeps your skin moisturized and youthful as you age, that oil, like keeping that water barrier on your skin. But needless to say, like, those things didn't work for me. I still had the acne. It was a chronic infection that continued to come back. And I saw all these doctors, and none of them were asking me, like, what are you eating?
Yeah.
Are you going to the bathroom every day?
I know.
Which I wasn't. And, I think, like, talking about poop should become normalized, especially with your doctor, right?
It's super normalized to me. So, but I might be like over here in my own world.
But, I like to look at my poop to see what does it look like, because it can give you so much information.
Totally. Yeah. If anyone's not familiar with the Bristol stool chart, just take a little gander at that. And not all poops are normal.
Yes. And how often are you pooping?
Yeah.
And so all these doctors, they weren't looking at that, and they just wanted to give me another prescription for antibiotics, another prescription for Accutane. I did lights, lasers, creams, topicals, everything. None of it worked because it wasn't an acute problem that a doctor could fix. It was a chronic problem, and it stemmed from my gut health. And so I realized, this is what I like to say. I didn't have a gut problem, or I didn't have a skin problem. I had a gut problem.
Yeah.
And so, like, that was my driver, really, of wanting to fix that led me to starting Sakara. I decided to, I had kind of this inner voice telling me, this isn't actually the problem on your face. It is a symptom of a bigger problem going on inside. And so I went back to my roots, my Sedona roots. And, Danielle was going on her own journey. She'd been a yo-yo dieter. She was working in the hospital, seeing patients with lifestyle diseases, yet nobody addressing lifestyle. So she shifted her path to study nutrition. But really, we came together to figure it out for ourselves. Like, what should we eat for optimal health? And that once we get down to that of, like, what should we be eating, not the list of what shouldn't we be eating that Danielle had been focused on in her diets, but what do we need to put in our bodies to let our bodies function at their optimal health? And let's eat that. And so we studied a lot of different modalities, Ayurveda, and even Taoism has their own food philosophy. I think it used to be a part of religion, really, too, these food philosophies teaching us how to eat. And then paired that with modern cutting-edge science that was coming out around the gut microbiome and epigenetics and nutrigenomics and how what you eat turns on and off certain genes in your body, and put it together to create recipes. We started to eat them, and it completely changed our bodies and our lives. So much that, people were starting to ask us, can you just make me some of that? And that's how we started. And one person told their friends and their friends told their friends. And it just spread through word of mouth, because when you're changing somebody's body and their life, they want to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm so sorry you even had to deal with all that, but it clearly came to like an end result that was really beneficial, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, their mess becomes their mission.
Totally. Absolutely. I mean, that's the same reason why I got interested in all of this stuff, Um, I grew up on a very differently, grew up on a standard American diet. I was on food stamps, for large portions of my life. If anyone remembers a free lunch card, that was a very familiar thing to me. And I don't talk about this that much, but there's a perception online because of what I have now that somehow that was given to me. And that couldn't be further from the truth. I gave up so much of my life to do nothing but work. I started my first company when I was 17. I had no clue what I was doing. I was just saying yes to everything and figuring it out on the fly. But what I always knew, and what really like spurred this initially, was that in order to change my entire life, because I knew I didn't want a life of the life I grew up in, I was going to have to upgrade my brain and my body, because I knew that I had limiting beliefs. So when I think about the brain as like software and hardware, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had to upgrade the software because I had limiting beliefs. I wasn't ever told in my life I would have never been told that I could have the life that I have now, right? I mean, I think some of the best aspirations were so much lower than what I already have achieved. And so I knew I was going to have to upgrade my brain, and I was going to have to upgrade my body, because I had to have relentless energy. I was so relentless in the hours I was willing to commit. I had to have the focus and the drive and the stamina to be able to keep up with that. And that's really, that in combination with starting to study nutrition in college, I was just like, that was the light bulb. It was like, okay, this is how I do it. This is how I get the life that I always wanted, by focusing on health. I always say health is the foundation of greatness.
It is.
If there's anything you want to do in life, it is fueled by that health, right? And to go back to your point about the skin, I get so many questions all the time. What is the skin product? Or I have acne. What is the product? And it's so frustrating, because I have a post actually like primed to go this week. It's similar to one I did a few years ago, but skin issues are a sign that something is off internally.
Yeah.
It's not a cream deficiency.
Yeah.
There's no cream. I mean, I'm not saying creams can't make some sort of impact, but it's not going to heal the root cause.
Exactly.
And every single time someone asks me, what should they do? Do you want to buy, $600 in creams, or do you want to spend $600 on a gut test? And when you resolve the gut issues, it's a super high likelihood that you're going to see those skin issues resolve.
It's your immune system. If you're having a chronic infection in your body, which acne is a chronic infection just coming out on your skin, then that means that you need to be working on your immune system. It's an imbalance of the bacteria in your body. It is a dysbiosis. And the best way to fix a dysbiosis is not by taking heavy-duty antibiotics, which wipe out the good bacteria with the bad, but by boosting your good bacteria so that they can do the fight for you and fight that bad bacteria.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
And, it's funny because I have a lot of people that ask me about skin and what they should be doing. And I had somebody write on my Instagram, be like, why are you giving skin advice? You're not a dermatologist. I'm like, nope. And a lot of dermatologists will not give the same advice that I'm giving. The number one, solution that is still provided when somebody has acne is antibiotics. And if that doesn't work, Accutane, still to this day. And they're not talking about those long-term potential side effects that come along with it. And I just see that there's a different and a better way. And whether it's acne or rosacea or eczema or psoriasis, whatever it is, you need to start with the inside, or even wrinkles and aging of the skin. It starts with what you're eating and what you're putting into your body every day.
Yeah. I mean, we have a massive control and impact, influence, I guess is the right word, over all of those factors. And yeah, I mean, I think, the internet should just realize that, you're allowed to share your story and what you did. Like, it's your own Instagram page. And yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of the literature, they say it takes roughly 20 years to prove something out in the literature for that to go to bedside. That's an incredibly long time. I'm not interested in waiting 20 years.
No, people don't even want to wait 1 month or 6 months. They want things instantly. So let alone 20 years.
Totally. And that's why, I started a clinic and, co-started a clinic. That's why I am doing all these N of 1 experiments, because I'm figuring it out, finding the right people to bring into the fold to help me figure it out. But then I can, just share my story, and hopefully that resonates with women, because we are so incredibly underserved. I mean, it really just came full circle for me. How much so? I know a lot of the numbers, but when we were both speakers at Eudaimonia.
Yeah.
So I was interviewing Dr. Jennifer Garrison, and, female health, like ovarian aging specifically, is like her entire lab right now, or a large portion of it.
I didn't get to hear that talk.
Oh,
so sad.
okay.
I'll have to, I think they're doing a replay, so I'm going to have to watch it.
Oh, nice. And I did a podcast with her.
Okay.
But it was just amazing to me that so many of the questions that I asked, we don't have the data yet. Like, we're doing the ground level work right now. Like, why do the ovaries age 2.5 times faster than the rest of the body? We do not know.
Yeah, we can make assumptions.
Yeah.
My assumption is that our bodies are designed to reproduce and then get rid of us, unfortunately. And so it's kind of this work that we're into around how can we extend our health span, right?
Yeah.
And kind of biohack our natural biology in order to live longer and live healthier as we live longer.
Absolutely. Yeah,
What's your hypothesis?
My hypothesis is potentially related to inflammation. So we know throughout the menstrual cycle that we experience, every month, that there's a large increase at times of inflammation. We also know that inflammation, expedites aging.
Mm-hmm.
That's from like a biological standpoint. From a more, I don't even know the word for it, but from a larger, I guess, evolutionary standpoint, would be potentially that we were meant to procreate at X time. I was having a conversation. I had a walk actually yesterday morning with an amazing PhD that's also studying something similar. And she also studied evolutionary biology. So the idea could be, we were meant to procreate throughout this time period, and then meant to, be grandmothers and, et cetera. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But when you think about it from a male perspective, the shoe doesn't also seem to fit that foot. So I don't know. I really feel like we need to know, though, the exact reason why,
Yeah,
why
that would help a lot.
Yeah, but it seems so basic. Like, for me, it feels so basic that we should already know this information. And also even the stuff with the skin, right? Like,
yeah,
I mean, we know that the literature says the microbiome impacts the skin. We know this. Why is that not yet over to the clinics and the offices and the hospitals and the...
Well, we know that the gut microbiome greatly affects our mental health, 100%. Our serotonin production, the balance of our brain chemicals. Yet why is food and nutrition still so greatly kind of like, it's very much ostracized, pushed to the side when it comes to psychiatry. Mm-hmm. Like, psychiatrists, the majority of them, if they want to suggest some supplements or even nutritional labs, they can be, called a quack or a fake or selling snake oil by their peers.
Yeah.
There's something still in that culture too. Yeah. So I think it just takes time and these conversations, and there are certain people that are breaking out and branching out, that will start to make the shift. But we're still in a little bubble.
I know. I did all of Dr. Daniel Amen's coursework. This was years ago. But when I was on this journey, like, how can I upgrade my brain? I found him. And, he really revolutionized psychiatry by actually looking at the brain. I mean, typically you're taking a standardized set of questions and like leaving with a, prescription most of the time when it comes to any mental, disorder or variance. And he started looking at the brain with SPECT imaging and has made substantial strides in a variety of different mental health conditions and, in general brain trauma. So I have a hard shell hyperbaric oxygen chamber upstairs in my bedroom. And I first found out about that from him. So there's so many influences, and so much of it makes me so sad because we've just gotten away from the things that make us healthy.
Yeah.
And I feel like the basic but very proven things are being overlooked because they're too simple.
I totally agree. And they're just not sexy, and they take time, and it has to be your everyday lifestyle.
Yeah.
So, circadian rhythm, going to bed at the right time, getting up at a good hour to get sunlight in your eyes, eating healthy foods. Like, people want to know which foods they should eliminate and which specific food to eat to get X, Y, Z. But really, it starts with just having that healthy foundation of what are you putting into your body? Are you getting enough plant fibers? Are you getting enough diversity of ingredients to build a diversity in your gut microbiome? Are you getting enough protein, enough hydration? Like, people aren't talking about hydration from food, but you need to be getting hydration from food, eating foods that live and die in your refrigerator, not ones that can just sit on a shelf for 2 or 5 years.
I mean, that's really problematic. I know. It's so crazy. Actually, one of the best water sources, obviously not for your primary water source necessarily, but one of the best water sources, if I'm remembering this correctly, is plants, because the process that they undergo to actually create the water inside of them, it's very close to easy water or exclusion zone water, which is best absorbed by our cells.
Yeah, it's in this web, this structure of fiber and nutrients, antioxidants, and as it's going through your digestive system, because it's in this web, it's held in your system for a longer amount of time. So water can just kind of flush through you. It's great for flushing toxins. It's important to drink water, but really, I mean, I would say 80% of your hydration should come from your food, and eating those water-rich foods that contain over 90% water in them, which most fruits and vegetables do. And so it can be released later down in your digestive system, because your digestive system actually takes a lot of water to function. And if you're eating packaged crackers, even if they're gluten-free, healthy, whatever crackers, or cereals, even if they're grain-free, whatever, they're like, all of these take, or popcorn, things take hydration and water to digest. And they don't have water in them, so where are they going to get that water from? They're getting it from your body, right? So it's coming from your skin or your organs. And really, you want to be adding hydration into your body, keeping your cells plumped up, keeping your organs, nice and hydrated, because that really impacts our energy levels, not just like your skin plumpness, which it does too, but definitely energy levels. If you're dehydrated, you're going to feel sluggish.
Absolutely. So I've obviously been having your meals.
Yeah.
Tons of variety, diversity in them. How do you guys aim for like a specific diversity count in each meal or throughout the week? Is there a number? Like, how many different types?
On average, you're getting about 70 different plant species in a day. Wow. And close to 200 in a week.
Amazing.
And, on average, the average American is getting, I think it's like 12 to 15 species of plants in their diet each week. 12 to 15. And most of them are domesticated, highly domesticated, monocrop kind of fruits and vegetables. But so we really aim to boost that diversity in your diet because different foods contain different nutrient profiles, right? So you're getting different vitamins and minerals, different antioxidants. So every plate looks like a rainbow. And the different colors contain different polyphenols and antioxidants that are helping to neutralize free radicals in your body, help to slow that DNA damage. So really great for longevity. But then also they contain different types of fibers. So I think a lot of people think fiber is just one thing. Like I went into Erewhon last night and I checked out, our Sakara products in there, and we have our fiber super powder, and it's on a shelf with other fiber supplements, and they're all single source fibers, mostly psyllium husk. And I think that's what people think of when they think of fiber. They're like, oh, psyllium husk.
Yeah.
But really, there's so many different types of fibers, and they do different things. They feed different bacteria in your gut, which then create postbiotics that are important and do different things for our bodies.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. And it's also, I am a big cook in terms of, not because I actually am like ultra passionate about cooking, but because I know that I can choose the quality of my food. I also, personally, for me, I love the act of like making, home cooked meals for my husband. I just feel like it's one of the most loving things I can do.
What an act of love.
I know.
What a gift.
And also, then I can manage our nutrition. I know exactly what we're eating and how often, etc. But when I eat things like Saqqara, I feel I'm so spoiled because I'm like, oh man, this like saves a lot of time.
Yeah, and then you can use your brain power for something else when you don't want to cook.
I agree. And plus it's fun because my husband and I, like sometimes we'll incorporate the meal into something I'm already cooking.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we'll just split. So it's like instead of having to do all this prep work, I mean, salads take so long to make.
Truly. Your produce lives and dies in the fridge. So first you have to have fresh produce that hasn't gone bad, hasn't wrinkled, shriveled up in the fridge. Yeah. And then you have to wash it, clean it, cut it, prep it, and then add a sauce to it or do something. It's not, I think it's a lot easier to just pull some salmon out of the freezer and heat that up just with a little bit of olive oil and salt and lemon, 3 ingredients versus an entire vegetable dish like a Sakara type of salad that contains, 25 different ingredients in it.
No. This is a really silly question. How do you dry the leaves? It's just a salad spinner?
No. I mean, we have kind of, it looks like a washing machine.
Okay. Well,
but so it's like a gigantic
spinner. How do you do it? Yeah.
Because like at Sakara, it's like a big one.
Yeah.
Yes. I go through a lot of leafy greens.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, I mean, a salad spinner, wash them and then put them in a salad spinner. Or if I'm lazy and I don't want to get that out, I'll just use a paper towel.
Okay, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah. It's not as good. It's not as tasty that way. But and then I think if you're getting the pre-washed, one of my sister's friends is a microbiologist, and she was doing testing on these packaged, pre-washed salad mixes. And I remember years ago, she was like, you don't want to know the microbes on there. Like, you have to still wash it. Absolutely wash those greens. And so I was washing them. And now she's learned so much about how important microbes are for us and how they can actually support the diversity. And so now she's like, don't wash them. It's actually beneficial for you.
Oh, good. I love that. Well, my problem was I spent like 3 weeks because I did not have a lot of time to dedicate to just finding a salad spinner, right?
Yeah.
So I spent like 3 weeks on and off. You know what I'm talking about? It's like, okay, I'm going to try to find this. So I was trying to find one so hard that didn't have plastic. And It took forever. I finally have one, but of course the
Wow.
wait time was, well, I don't have it actually physically here.
Okay.
It's being delivered. The wait time was super long because I'm not sure why, but I'm so excited to finally get a salad spinner. It's going to be the first salad spinner I've actually owned in my life because I used to just buy, more so the pre-washed ones.
Yeah.
But I'm doing this, just like trying to do more farmers markets when I can and stuff so I can get like freshly, picked stuff.
Yeah.
So how do
But
you?
that takes a lot of work to
It does.
clean all the dirt off. So my mom, when the kids grew up and moved out of the house, we used to have a big swimming pool in the backyard and a lot of like grass lawn.
Mhm.
And she filled the swimming pool up with dirt and turned it into a garden. She planted fruit trees in the lawn.
Nice.
So basically just turned her yard into an organic farm.
I love that.
And so when my husband and I were living back home during COVID, we were harvesting things out of the garden. And oh man, it takes so much work to get all of the dirt and the bugs. You have to check every leaf of lettuce.
I know.
And then that year we had a bunch of snails.
Oh, I've seen an issue before.
They will just leave a skeleton of a leaf on the plant. They will eat everything. And this year, the issue was raccoons.
Oh my God.
The raccoons will come in and they were eating all of her persimmons. And
This happened to me.
yeah,
I was devastated. See, right over there, we had all these trees. And my husband and I are very different. He's super patient. I'm not really. And so I saw all these peaches on the tree and there's 40 of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yes, I want to eat these so bad. And he's like, no, let's be patient and we'll wait. And sorry for telling the story, Warren, because I know you feel bad. So he wanted us to be patient and wait a month so they were like fully ripe, even though we could have eaten them. One morning we wake up, a raccoon family ate every single one, gone.
It's so
remnants gone. We couldn't even identify what happened to them until like later I finally found tiny remnants. But
yeah, I mean, they have tiny little thumbs. And so they can do a lot of damage in your garden. So this year, they went after her persimmons, but then they also started going after her pomegranates, which in years past, they didn't touch the pomegranates. But this year, they're able to open up the shell and eat all of the little, seeds, all those, I forget what they're called, little gems out of the pomegranate and just leave part of a shell attached to the bush.
So sad. It's devastating to see this.
It is. You put so much time and work into nurturing these plants and helping them grow and watering them. And then, I don't know, if anybody has tips on how to manage raccoons, like reach out.
I'll take them as well.
Yeah. And she puts out traps and will get a raccoon here and there in her trap and then has to relocate it somewhere away. But they just keep coming back. So I need some tips.
Same. How do you guys source so much volume and?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of work. We have experts on the team who have been in sourcing for a long time. Like when we first started, it was me and Danielle going out and meeting farmers because, I mean, this was, over a decade ago, farmers were not answering emails.
Yeah, they're probably still not.
Probably still not. Yeah. They were like out on the farm, doing the work. They're not going to like answer the phone or answer an email. So we literally had to like drive upstate, we started in New York, drive upstate and walk out onto the farm and just be like, hey guys. They're like looking at us like, who are you? And talk to them and tell them about what we were doing and convince them to sell to us because they have, kind of vendors. And then over time have just built relationships with these farmers where now, they'll ask us, okay, is there anything that you want specifically grown for next season?
Nice.
And also they'll ask us, what are your projections? How much do you think you're going to need? And so this also helps reduce food waste, because we can give them pretty good projections. We've been in business a long time now. and can give them projection so that they don't overgrow their crops, but grow just the amount needed, kind of thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
How was starting in New York, like New York City? I mean, I lived in New York for a while. I've never really thought of it as the healthiest place.
I think that's why it worked. Why? Because there were no healthy options back then in New York.
They're still limited, I feel.
Still super limited, for sure. I mean, there's a few more here and there popping up, but it was really, really hard to get healthy food in New York. And like you're saying, still hard. But I think New York is such a special, magical place. Like there's nowhere else on the planet that is like that for business.
Yeah.
And it's just a catalyst of a city where you're meeting people, and like the density of people who are influential and just can help you like move business quickly is so high. And you're living your life out in the world in New York. You're not in your home and then you take your car from here to there. Your apartment is literally like it's your bed and your closet.
Yeah.
You're not hanging out at home. So your living room is all the amazing like lounges in New York. Your kitchen is all the amazing restaurants in New York. You're walking from here to there. So you're running into people, you're meeting people all the time. And it just really helps to accelerate business. So I think that really, we were kind of in the right place at the right time to help make this grow and grow quickly. Even though it's been over 10 years, it was still pretty fast paced in its growth.
I love that. I mean, also, I think New York is a place that people appreciate convenience a lot. And it's not that there's a lack of desire of wanting to be healthy necessarily.
Yeah. People are smart and educated.
Totally. It's just, I think more so I felt the culture was just not, I mean, obviously it's like just different from LA now.
Yeah. I think breakfast is one of the most difficult meals in New York City. You go around and a typical New Yorker's breakfast is a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Maybe a cup of coffee and a muffin, a cup of coffee and a croissant, a bagel, 2 eggs and cheese on a roll, but not healthy options.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of New Yorkers, especially young, moved there in my early 20s, like that late night pizza, like getting a slice is part of the New York culture.
I know. I never did that,
Or
though.
the bagels.
I
bagels
never.
And I mean, that is just a gut bomb.
I know. I'm glad. I was actually eating Sakara back in New York. I had a roommate. She would order it. And
that's amazing.
I didn't do the pizza thing. I'm proud of myself. But I agree. I was the only one not eating the pizza.
That was something that I had to eventually give pizza like the big X, where I don't have a lot of things that I won't eat, actually, where I feel like if you are what you do the majority of the time, so if most of the time you're flooding your body with great healthy foods to build up your immune system, you can handle when you go out and eat something that's not that great for you, and your body will bounce back. But for me, pizza just really kind of did me in. Like I would notice it on my skin the next day. And now having a son with type 1 diabetes, I can see it, what happens in his blood sugar when you eat a pizza. There's something that they call in the diabetes world, the pizza phenomenon. And it's because it's high starch, like high sugar in the crust, high carb, and high fat. And that combination raises your blood sugar, and then the fat keeps it up there for an extended amount of time, making you more insulin resistant.
Yeah.
So the first time that we were in New York with my son, he had some pizza, wanted the New York pizza, and his blood sugar was high for like 8 hours. We could not get it to come down. And so, we were still early in that journey of understanding what foods affected him and to what degree and how to deal with those types of situations. Now we can, manage it much better. But it was just eye-opening to me to see what pizza does. And it's anything that's like a pizza kind of does this, that combination of the high starchy carb and the high fat together.
Yeah. Well, and those carbs are then going to break down into sugars, obviously. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that raises your glucose, and then the fat keeps it up.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you know the Mastering Diabetes guys, Robbie and Cyrus.
Mm-hmm.
They're interesting, and they take a different approach to blood sugar and diabetes than what's common out there.
Mm-hmm.
They focus on a plant-based, low-fat, ultra-low-fat diet that's high carb. So they're eating bowls of mangoes and bananas and all these different fruits that typically somebody with diabetes will stay away from. And they can eat that and totally manage their blood sugar easily and keep their A1C down. Because what they've seen is that it's actually the fat that creates insulin resistance and a higher glucose number overall.
Healthy fats too, like avocado, or no?
Yeah. So they'll do some avocado and some nuts and seeds in there here and there, but overall they try and keep it fairly low. And so I've even played with that with my own body, wearing a continuous glucose monitor, and it is really interesting to see that drop in your average glucose number when you do take down that fat level. A lot of people go keto, which is the higher fat, and like no carbs. But this is the other direction where, they had tried that too. But they get better results and better health outcomes, better over time by doing it the way that they do it.
They're eating pasta on this diet?
I don't think so. I think it's mostly a whole food
so
based diet.
Based carbs. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Okay.
Yeah, like they're really focused on healthy foods.
Yeah, okay.
But I mean, they just, have kind of like seen magic happen with reversal of type 2 diabetes and keeping type 1 under great management.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different schools of thought, Yeah, super interesting. So,
and I think this idea of what you're talking about with an N of 1, like studies with an N of 1 is really important.
Yeah.
Because I think we've got it in our head in society somewhere that we need to do a double-blind clinical trial with, 10,000 people or whatever it is to show that this is the outcome and this works. But we're all individuals, and our history, our health history, our exposures history, our family history and their exposures history are all different and individual. And so something that might, cause something, a chronic condition, or trigger something in you could be totally different than if I do the same thing.
100%, yeah.
And so I think looking in the future, we'll get closer to a more personalized, individualized medicine that looks at all of the health history and exposures, and takes that into account when looking at a health plan for a patient. I joined the board of this organization called Documenting Hope, which you had
reviewed back.
Yeah, I haven't listened to that episode yet.
It's not.
Is it out?
Not out yet.
It's not out yet.
Actually, I'm grateful, but I have a pretty massive backlog right now of podcasts. I'm thinking about going to 2 a week because I'm doing so many of them.
Great.
So
that's amazing.
Around, yeah.
But they do studies, they'll look at an N of 1 and look at a child individually at their exposures, their total load, so all of the different toxins that they have in their body, and start to unwind it all. And they've had amazing results with helping kids with chronic, lifelong conditions and being able to reverse those.
Yeah, it's so powerful. That's really the root is, I told you I just interviewed Dr. Jeffrey Bland before this one, and he pioneered functional medicine, and it's root cause medicine. That's also what we offer, in my clinic, and the outcomes are just so powerful. I mean, there'll be people that have seen 10, 15, 20 doctors. They don't have a solution. They don't know what is even going on, and they have no idea how to start improving that or reversing that condition, right? And then once you start looking on, you start peeling back some of these layers, and it's not always easy, right? It can be a long process. It can be expensive. I hope that's going to change in the future, but that's why I do so many of these labs. I mean, I'm looking at...
I want to know about what labs you're doing. You were talking earlier about looking at your toxin exposure, your toxic load, and how it's changed. So, what do you get done? How do you even look at that?
Yeah. So on a quarterly basis, I do quite a few things. I am looking at my GI effects. So, gut testing. I firmly believe, the gut is just the foundation of health, and it's amazing to watch it change too. So I had a breast explant earlier this year. I did a GI effects prior to the breast explant. I knew I was going to have to be on antibiotics. I was having a surgery. Obviously I avoid antibiotics at all costs unless it's absolutely necessary. Then we're blessed to have them because they're life-saving. So knew I was going to do that. I went from having probably one of the best gut tests. I even asked Dr. Bland, I'm like, have you ever seen a GI effects with all zeros? So at the top, I'm not sure if you've ever seen this lab, but it'll give you a score for a variety of different areas of your gut, from dysbiosis to like metabolic imbalance, inflammation, parasites, viruses, etc. So I had all zeros and 1, 2 on dysbiosis. And we know that we have trillions of gut bacteria. So it's pretty much impossible to get a 0 for the dysbiosis. There's always going to be some level. So do a gut test, but I did a gut test post-explant. Those antibiotics, even though I stayed on a really high-powered antibiotic while doing the antibiotics, still just wiped it out. So I'm in the process of rebuilding it now. Gut test, massive. You want to look for things like, a parasite can completely derail you. A lot of autoimmune conditions, they're finding, a variety of different bacteria that can be related to them, like H. pylori. And you want to, of course, step 1 is eradicate any of those pathogens or bacteria. About 3 years ago, because I've been doing these types of labs, Liv has been open for 4 years, for a long time. And it's becoming so much more popular now, but I've been doing them for a long time. So about 3 years ago, I got a parasite, picked it up from, it could be anything, travel, it could be a piece of unwashed food, who knows. I named it Lawrence. I had to get rid of Lawrence and his whole family, unfortunately, like super fast. I just took, we have like, you have like the slow going, approach, but I just took what we call in my clinic the big gun. I just took a prescription and just knocked Lawrence out completely. But that Lawrence was causing all this inflammation in my GI tract. There's a marker called calprotectin that is a measurement of inflammation. So if I had not been testing and I hadn't caught Lawrence, then that could have led to IBS, Crohn's. These conditions develop over the course of sometimes a decade, sometimes shorter. So gut test is a huge one.
And with the antibiotics, a recent study came out just last month. It hasn't even been peer-reviewed yet because it's so new. But looking at what happens to your gut over the course of time, 1 year, 4 years, 8 years, and showing that with certain antibiotics, a powerful one like a clindamycin, which is commonly prescribed, can it was wiping out on average 52 species of bacteria in your gut. And it takes over a year to replenish. And with some of these microbes never coming back.
Yeah.
And so I'm reading an interesting book right now. It's called Missing Microbes by Martin J. Blazer, that's looking at the connection between these missing microbes and conditions like you're talking about, autoimmune, asthma, allergies, and seeing if there's a connection between those.
There definitely is. There's another gut test that I've done, and it's called the Gut Zoomer by Vibrant America. And I prefer now the GI effects just for anyone that is interested. But it would actually break down the species and the microbes, and then it would actually have a correlation of what those have been scientifically backed to potentially be, causative or correlative with different conditions from a wide range of things, from Parkinson's to,
even obesity.
Disease. For sure, obesity. So getting your gut in check, so important, and we've already talked a lot about that. But that's like something, because if you improve the gut, when those good microbes are wiped out, it allows for the overgrowth of the bad microbes. You're always going to have some bad, and then you have some benign, right? You have good, bad, benign. There's always going to be all of them, but it's all about the level of dysbiosis that you have. You don't want the bad ones overgrowing. But it's amazing because the second that those bad ones start to overgrow, you can see it in your hormones. You can see it in so many other facets of your health, your brain fog, your cognition, all these things. So gut testing is a big one. Something that I think is so underused right now, and I know that there's a cost to it, is a total toxic burden. I have been feeling like I've been over
this one I haven't done yet.
Yeah, I feel like I've been over this corner of like the Instagrams over here talking about total toxic burdens for like 6 years since I started posting. And it's a test that combines heavy metals, molds and mycotoxins, environmental toxins, and it's incredible. So it's going to look at all of these different facets, right? We know heavy metals have a direct link with a lot of neurological conditions. Molds and mycotoxins we see people bedridden. And I'm not saying that that's always going to happen. Of course not. Some people are more genetically susceptible to not be able to detox that mold, or if you're compromised in general.
Your gut health isn't optimized.
Exactly. But in the right person, or the prolonged exposure, or if you have, an unhealthy home, let's say, like homes aren't built the way that they used to be. They're not breathing. So these molds, which then produce these mycotoxins, can be really dangerous if you're not able to detox them, or if you're living in, a moldy environment. Right. So it's going to look at all of those levels. And it's interesting because since I've been in, and I haven't even talked about this yet, but since I've been in California, when I was in Ohio, I had 0. So when they rank it, when you get a total toxic burden test, it'll rank it. You have a high section, which is obviously the most problematic, and then a medium, and then a low. Almost everyone that comes in thinks that they're going to have like no toxins in the high range, right? They're living a healthy life already. Every single time, just about, they're not correct. It's on average, 20 plus toxins in the high range. Wow. So my last test, again, was one of the best. But keep in mind, everyone, like, we'll walk through my house before you leave, but like the intention to detail, like our couch is like a low toxin couch. There's this carpet, I had to go and find an organic carpet because there's so many things that can impact. Yeah. I do, mold testing twice a year in my home just to see what's going on, see if there's something. It's not always visible. So I'm doing so much. So I went from having 0 toxins in the high range and only like 2, one of them being glyphosate, which is a whole other story because I haven't eaten a piece of inorganic food in about a decade.
Living in Ohio, there's a lot of crops there that are sprayed with glyphosate, so it could be in the air,
It's in the air,
rainwater.
it's in the water. I firmly believe in all of the shower water that glyphosate is in there because I've never seen a test without glyphosate in high levels, which is very concerning because we know it's a known carcinogen.
Yeah.
I mean, in every single room I have 6 Jaspers in this house. That's enough Jaspers, air filtration to cover like 3 of these homes. So I'm doing all the things, but it's showing me like where the real issues are, because if I have these things, then it's
right,
really
and you're doing
problematic.
this level of work. Imagine what other people,
organic
what their levels must
clothes
be at.
and never using plastic. I'm the most annoying person at the airport, like on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to give them a little tip under the table because at the airport they're like, no, we can't put it in a different cup.
Yeah.
But I bring a glass bottle or a cup, and eventually, if you ask them enough times, please don't tell the airport that I told you this. But eventually, I've gotten the coffee in the mug that I bring.
Yeah.
But it's everything. It's the tap water. And we're looking at, environmental toxins, things like BPA. I can immediately tell if someone's drinking out of plastic water bottles. It's so obvious because the BPA is just through the roof. PFAS. I'm looking at all of these levels, and such a tiny percentage of the world is doing that.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to get the test is expensive. It's about a $700 test because it's combining, 3 different tests into one.
And it's a blood test? Is it
it's
blood
actually
and
a
urine?
urine sample.
Oh, it's just urine.
Urine. So you do want to do, I always recommend, if you're not going to provoke with something like DSMA, which your provider would need to prescribe for you, do a real good sauna session the day before. And there's some things you want to avoid too, like seafood that potentially has, high levels of heavy metals, sometimes things high in different contaminants you want to avoid for a few days. But it's so incredibly important because since we've been living in our new house, I haven't yet gotten a whole home water filtration system. I was seeing if we could work it out for the first little bit at least, to see if we could just do really high quality. I have like a massive water filter for the shower, and then of course all of reverse osmosis. But I just got my recent labs back, and I can look at levels of toxins, and then I can look at the water supply here in LA at the EWG, and they directly correlate.
Match. Oh, wow.
And I have the shower water filter, and I'm never you couldn't, I've said this before on a little viral video, but you couldn't pay me to drink tap water. You know what I mean? This, of course I'm not doing that. Use, spring water. And so it's so pervasive.
Yeah.
They look at parabens.
I also wonder if the air outside affects us, because I was seeing just, I don't know if your audience is okay talking about this or not, but just a lot of chemtrails in the air in the past couple days.
Yeah.
And that has to come down. I'm not really a conspiracy theorist to think that those are there for whatever reason, but I just see that they're up there, and that those particles fall down on us. And so, maybe living in a different part of the country, maybe there are more airplanes flying overhead or something like that too, that could be affecting.
Totally. I mean, I think the overall sentiment is that indoor air quality is actually worse right now than outdoor by far. So that's why when people ask, I'm like, you have to get, an AquaTrue reverse osmosis water filter is a couple $100s. You have to get one of those for all of your, cooking, drinking, etc. You have to remineralize it because RO pulls out the minerals.
Yeah.
But also the second thing is just an air filter. So super important. But even, my husband started, so I do all these labs, and we'll go back to the rest of them, but I do them with my husband too.
Okay.
At the same time. And I saw, all of a sudden he has these increasing. And when I say our levels are high, they're actually so low in comparison to an average test. Right. But I see these parabens sneaking up, and I'm like, I know I've never given you anything that has a paraben in it from, these are beauty products, right? Lotions, things like that. And so I showed him, and I said, what do we think this is from? And, he told me he's been using this lotion at the gym.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it's the lotion at the gym. And it's a good brand. I'm not even going to name what brand it is, but it's a brand that most people would be like, oh, this is a pretty good one. It's not a good one. And I see that directly in the lab. So, but that information is so powerful, even if you do that once a year, right?
It's hard to make a change unless you see something like that.
so many things you wouldn't even ever know, right? Like these little contaminants that are in the water, or the contaminants that, maybe, you and I've been doing a lot of travel lately,
Yeah.
for all these speaking engagements, which I love, but that means I'm out of my environment that I've like perfected internally. And so you just get exposed to things. You can live next
Yeah.
to a manufacturing plant that you have no clue that they're using high levels of toxic materials, and you're breathing them in. Our
Yeah.
lungs have very little defense against.
I live in Miami Beach, and there's a gigantic golf course on
Yeah.
Miami Beach. I don't live right next to it, but, you know,
Well, we have to get you this test.
it's still in the air. Yeah, I want to do this test.
Yeah. And it's great because even also, if you think about it this way, not everything's going to be the same, but if you can only, because I like to be mindful that not everybody can do this. Let's say if you did this test once a year and you were the only one to do it in your family, then that could be somewhat of a proxy though for your
Yeah.
environment, right? So
So
maybe
true.
you don't have to do it for every single member, but you have at least a decent idea.
And it's likely covered by FSA
Yeah,
as
I
well,
think
those FSA dollars.
a lot of like TrueMed, my friend Callie's company, a lot of times that can be covered by that. So that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Total tox burn, though, super important. I would recommend doing at least once a year, specifically too, if you move, you might want to do it again because there's just different, like there's more molds here. I mean, you see, we're like living in this like jungle
Yeah.
environment, which is beautiful, but, it also produces some mold. So therefore, that just means I'd make a little bit of a different choice with, what areas I keep open more, where I spend more time. So just really important, but total toxic burn, game changer. The other thing that I love that's pretty unique, and this is outside of all my normal blood work, right? I do like about 150 different blood labs, just a super advanced cardiac panel, like looking at the size and the shape and, all TMAO, all these things that regular doctors are not looking at.
Yeah. TMAO. Great.
Yeah. So, and plant-based diet's great for TMAO.
Yeah. It helps to
Real
clean out if you're going to be eating a lot of animal protein, which will produce TMAO in the gut, then, there's studies that have shown that eating enough plants, especially leafy greens, will help to kind of work that out and decrease the TMAO almost completely.
Yeah. Yeah. So TMAO, for anyone listening, it's more of an advanced like cardiac marker that is fairly new, I
It's
think.
linked to inflammation.
Inflammation, yeah. And so that's part of our like advanced cardiac panel. But the other test that I do that I think is interesting is it's called a Nutri-Eval by Genova. And so that is a blood and urine sample. And that is actually looking at the nutrient status in your body. So
Oh, great.
I try to do that, and then I make amendments to my diet. Like, for example, last time I did it, so I'm doing these once a quarter. Last time I did it, I realized I was a little low on vitamin C, right? I mean, I take a lot of supplements, but I do try to do a food first approach.
Yeah.
And then, so I'm like, okay, I need to be eating more oranges. For me, I'll do, and this is not the way you need to do it, but I'll go get a vitamin C IV to get my levels back up when I see something like that. And then I will also at the same time incorporate more into food. But, again, there are so many things that can go wrong when you're running prolonged nutrient deficiencies.
Yeah.
Now, if you're eating something like Sakara, or you're taking the time to do these massively diverse salads along with high quality protein, there's probably a pretty low chance that. But if you're doing any extreme diets, like really understanding what nutrients, another thing is
Yeah.
it's not just what you're eating, it's what you're absorbing and what
Yeah.
you're assimilating. So
Right. So important.
again, going back to that gut test, like the gut. So those are some of the things
Yeah.
that
Looking at your hydrochloric acid levels.
yeah.
Because can you break down the food that you're eating, and looking at
Totally.
your digestive enzymes, can you break it down? Can you assimilate those nutrients?
Mhm.
I think there is such a focus on protein right now, but a lot of people, especially women, as we age, our hydrochloric acid declines, and it
Mhm.
becomes more difficult to break down those animal proteins that are filled with saturated fats. Fat is the most difficult to break down, followed by protein, followed by carbs. So I think also getting a diversity within your proteins is going to be really great so that you can kind of hedge and see what your body can digest.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And also, high stress can lead to, reduced stomach acid. And
Yes.
so sometimes,
H. pylori
totally.
is
Yeah.
linked with low stomach acid as well.
Yeah.
And that's connected with stress
Mhm.
also. And then stress can also when you're stressed, your body needs more nutrients. Like it'll absorb, take away from your nutrient stores.
Yeah.
And so if you're stressed and you're busy, like most people are, then you need to make sure that you're getting enough nutrition to replenish those nutrient stores in your body.
Yeah, absolutely. When I eat, I still love like a great grass-fed, grass-finished Wagyu steak. But I'll do enzymes with it at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I just am gonna hedge, on the
Exactly.
side of caution.
Yeah.
And I find that, that is beneficial.
Yeah. If I'm eating something like that, I'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people think that because Saqqara is a plant-based company that we're all vegans, but actually 95% of my clients are not vegan. They're omnivores. I'm not a vegan. I've been a vegan, and I'll go back into eating primarily plants here and there throughout my life. But, I focus on getting enough plants and that diversity into my diet. And then I eat other things along with it as well.
Yeah.
So just we help people get more plants into their body, into their diets.
Yeah.
And also we've seen just tremendous results over the years when people have come on and they've followed it specifically. And I think being fully plant-based can be a great therapeutic tool in your toolkit, where maybe it's not something that you're on for all of your life, but if you're working on something specific, it can be really helpful. We've seen people get off of medications for Hashimoto's, for lupus, for other things that maybe I'm not going to mention on a podcast, but big diseases, big conditions, and they've seen just incredible life-changing benefits by doing this program. And it's because we're not focused on what we're eliminating, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to really boost your nutrition, boost your gut health, flood your body with those antioxidants that just helps your body's natural processes to do what they need to do.
Yeah. Without a doubt, food is medicine.
Yeah.
And we are definitely not getting enough plants, definitely not getting enough whole foods. And everything they are doing is organic, which I love. So, yeah, and I love, like today I had the Mama Earth bowl, which is incredibly tasty. And then I just added some sardines onto it.
Amazing.
It was perfect. And it took, no time. I was in between podcasts. It was really great. And, some people are doing a lot of these like food replacement powders nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not in that game.
And again, it's so detached from the earth then. So it doesn't have any hydration in it, right? No water, and no, maybe like a small amount of life energy. But I think life energy, again, is not something that people are talking about when it comes to food and is a piece of nutrition, right? Like how long has it been since it was connected to the plant and the earth?
Yeah.
And I think, Mark Hyman, he always says food is information. And he talks about it kind of as maybe it's chemical and biological compounds going in, telling which genes to turn on and off, and this, talking about nutrigenomics. But I think it goes even beyond that, that it's interacting with different microbes and fungi and all of these things out in nature that are constantly gaining information from the environment. So you're getting that information from Mother Nature coming into your body, which then can inform your body how to function or how to respond in that environment too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so much power with that connection to the earth through what we're eating. And I don't think people know this that much, but the longer, that it's disconnected from its source or its roots, it's actually losing nutritional value. How do you guys manage that at Sakara?
It's about going straight to the source, getting as close to the farm as possible so that, we have a farmer that we work with, And I brought him on to our podcast and he said, yeah, we'll like cut your greens in the morning and then it's at your kitchen at noon and then you're making it into a meal and shipping it out to people overnight. And it's that fast from being grown in the ground to being on your plate.
So important.
If you're going to the grocery store, it can be shipped even from foreign countries, stored in refrigerators in the back of the grocery store, for days or weeks, then on the shelf for days or weeks, and then in your refrigerator for days or weeks before you eat it. And it's, like you said, losing nutrition during that time.
Yeah. So important.
Yeah, getting that life energy, because at the end of the day, like, you are what you eat and you get that energy from the food. Like, these plants are doing photosynthesis. They're collecting energy from the sun and then that we get to eat and feel that energy kind of from the sun as the direct source, but through the plant.
Yeah, I love that. What does like a day of wellness look like for you, Whitney?
That's a good question. Like an ideal day of wellness, or just
average day?
An average day. An average day, I think, would start with snuggles with my son, my little one. Definitely some hydration. I feel so good when I'm just drinking water first thing in the morning, like good high quality water. Getting in a nutritious smoothie with lots of different superfoods and different seeds in it, flax seeds, hemp seeds, chia seeds, wild blueberries, high quality spirulina, things like that. Definitely getting sunshine, exercise. I love Pilates. So I like classical Pilates. And again, it's something that's expensive to work with a private instructor, but it doesn't take that many sessions to really make a difference in your body. And we've been talking a lot about posture today, and Pilates will just completely change your posture and your alignment and help work on the specific muscles in your body that you need to work on to create better alignment. And it's functional movement then that you can use out in the world when I'm picking up my kid or working at my desk. So I love Pilates. And eating really great food from the earth, eating my Sakara meals. Just, I feel so much more nourished and like I'm flooding my body with all those nutrients and knowing I'm doing something really good for myself.
Well, I love that. And yeah, I mean, similar. I have a bunch more stuff, but you can watch my YouTube video if anyone wants to see what I do in a day.
I know. If I could I would love to have a hyperbaric oxygen chamber in my house.
Move to LA. You can use mine.
I know. I keep trying to convince my husband, but it's like the cost of a luxury vehicle.
I know.
And so I'm like, maybe one day, because I don't have a car. So
there you go.
So I'm like, if I were going to buy a car, I would spend this amount. So why not just spend it on something that I would really enjoy and use and is good for my health?
I agree. I'll advocate for you.
This is like girl math, right?
I know. Yeah, exactly.
If I don't have a car, it's almost free.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then I love red light, infrared and red light. Infrared sauna, I go back and forth on. I feel really good when I do it, but I find that I'm just sensitive, so it can dehydrate me if I'm not careful.
I have to work on extra hydration for sure, and electrolytes and minerals. So
yeah, I feel like that my body is a bit sensitive to changes like that. And like I've had times where I've gone hardcore in the sauna and then I've ended up with a UTI from just being so dehydrated.
Yeah, you do. I think it's like sauna something too. I think it like does actually require a little bit of a like lead up if you just go from none or like
Yeah,
very
you need
little to a ton.
to work up with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's something like it's really like like sleep, it's like a consistency.
Yeah, but I did it while I was out here because I'm staying at a friend's house and they have one
Oh,
out
nice.
on their porch, as many people in LA do.
Yeah, as I do.
Yeah, and I felt amazing after, just like the endorphins and
So
like
good for you.
so good. And I feel like I skid in my skin too.
Oh yeah, it's great for skin. We just I recently became involved in this Heavenly Heat sauna company.
Mm.
And we just rolled out. I'll show you. It's upstairs. It's really, really cool. It combines actual red light with an infrared sauna with a grounding port. So
Ooh.
you can be so efficient, right? That's like taking 3 different therapies, combining them into one. And for me, just I would love to do things faster if possible. But yeah, I love the benefits. I mean, the benefits of the sun alone, we've really demonized sun, I guess,
Yeah.
in like the health world. And yes, you can do too much. Yes, you have to protect yourself. Yes, you can wear mineral sunscreen. But we're actually like plants in that way. Like
Yes.
taking a vitamin D supplement is not the same. You don't get all the same benefits. I'm not saying don't do it. If your vitamin D is low, please take a vitamin D supplement. But you get such a cascade of additional health benefits by actually the process of taking sun and turning it into vitamin D.
Yeah.
So,
Some people will be like, oh, if you're eating plants, where do you get your vitamin D from? Like the sun. You're
yeah,
eating leafy greens filled with vitamin K. You go out in the sun, you're going to get your vitamin D.
totally. Yeah, I agree. Well, this has been so much fun.
Yeah, so fun. And I
I
can't wait to go check out all of your toys and gadgets
I
and things that
know,
you
I
have
know.
upstairs.
We'll do a little tour, but this was such a fun chat.
Yeah.